I remember the day my marriage ended, not with tears but with silence, because silence was safer than breaking apart in front of people who already decided I was nothing. We sat in a cold office with bright lights and serious faces, and my husband spoke like I was a stranger. He asked for the house, the cars, the business, the savings, and even the memories, like they could be owned and signed away. His voice was calm, confident, almost proud, while his mother nodded beside him like this was justice. My hands were shaking, but I kept them folded in my lap because I knew any emotion would be used against me. They looked at me like a woman who had no fight left, like someone easy to erase. In that moment, I understood something painful and powerful, that the people closest to me had already written my ending, and they expected me to accept it quietly. After that meeting, everyone acted like it was over, like my life had already been divided and handed out. My husband walked out lighter, smiling like a man who had won a clean battle. His mother hugged him in the hallway and whispered something that made him laugh. My closest friend avoided my eyes and later told me maybe it was for the best, because I was not strong enough to run a business alone. That sentence stayed with me longer than the divorce papers. I went home to an almost empty house and sat on the floor because there was no couch left. I felt small, invisible, replaceable, but something inside me refused to fully break. I cried quietly at night, and during the day I started remembering every sacrifice, every unpaid hour, every idea I gave that business. I remembered how I supported him when no one believed in him, and how my name was missing from everything that mattered. They thought I was weak because I was quiet, but they did not understand that quiet was me. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and my life felt like it was standing still while everyone else moved forward. My husband started living loud, buying things, posting smiles, showing the world that he was free and successful, while I learned how to live with less space, less noise, and less people. I sold my jewelry, quietly paid my bills carefully, and avoided asking anyone for help because pride was the only thing he could not take from me. I replayed every conversation from our marriage, every promise, every plan we made together, and slowly I began to see patterns I ignored before. How my ideas were praised in private but erased in public, how my work was expected but never credited, how his mother always spoke over me, and how my friends slowly became closer to him than to me. That betrayal hurt deeper than the divorce because it came wrapped in trust. One stopped confronting and started observing. I wrote things down in notebooks, dates, moments, bank movements, emails, messages. Things that once felt meaningless now looked different. I did not know exactly what I was preparing for, but I knew I was not finished. I was not healing yet, but I was becoming aware, and awareness gave me strength in ways anger never could. I learned how lonely rebuilding can be when no one is clapping for you and no one believes in your future. I woke up every morning before the sun, not because I had somewhere to go, but because staying in bed felt like giving up. I made coffee in a silent kitchen and reminded myself that this quiet was temporary. I took small jobs, work no one noticed, and skills no one respected before, and I treated them like lifelines because they were every dollar I earned felt heavier than money I had before. Because it came from me alone, I studied late at night, reading contracts, watching videos, learning laws that once bored me because now they mattered. I stopped talking about my pain and started carrying it like weight, training my soul. My former friend stopped calling completely, and my husband never checked if I was alive, but I noticed something else happening inside me. I was no longer afraid of being alone. I began trusting my instincts again, something I lost during my marriage. When memories came back, they no longer shattered me, they educated me. I could see how often I was silenced, and how often I stayed silent to keep peace. I realized peace that requires your disappearance is not peace at all. That truth changed how I stood, how I spoke, how I planned, and even though no one could see it yet, I was quietly becoming someone they would not recognize. As time passed, I stopped counting what I lost and started measuring what I was gaining inside myself. I gained patience, the kind that comes from surviving disappointment again and again. I gained clarity because pain has a way of removing illusions. I saw clearly how my husband depended on my quiet support while pretending he was self-made. I saw how his confidence was built on my silence and how easily people believed him because he spoke louder. I remembered meetings where my ideas were dismissed until he repeated them and everyone nodded. I remembered nights when I stayed awake fixing problems while he slept peacefully, and mornings when he took the credit without looking back. These memories no longer made me cry, they made me focused. I organized my notes, my records, my old emails and messages, not with revenge in mind, but with truth as my goal. I started understanding that knowledge is power, especially when others assume you have none. I learned how systems work, how documents speak when people lie, and how patience can outlast arrogance. My life was still simple, still small on the outside, but inside I was building something solid, something honest, something unbreakable. And while they believed the story was over for me, I knew deep down that my chapter was only beginning. I stayed invisible on purpose because being unseen gave me time and safety. People assume silence means weakness, but silence can also mean strategy. One listened more than I spoke and watched patterns repeat themselves. My husband started struggling in small ways. At first, missed deadlines, complaints from partners, tension inside the business he proudly took from me. I heard things through distant connections, and I felt no joy, only confirmation that I once carried more weight than anyone admitted. I Kept learning every night, teaching myself skills I was never encouraged to use before: finance, structure, leadership, negotiation. I practiced speaking out loud alone, correcting my voice, strengthening my confidence. I healed slowly, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, steady way. I forgave myself for staying too long, for trusting too much, for shrinking myself to fit someone else. Comfort. The world did not notice my growth, but I did, and that was enough for now. I built routines that saved me, habits that grounded me, and dreams that no longer needed approval. I realized that freedom is not loud, it is stable. It is waking up without fear. It is knowing you can lose everything and still rebuild yourself from nothing. They thought they took my future, but what they really did was return it to me untouched. The day finally came when I had to face him in the courtroom. I walked in with a quiet strength that surprised everyone, including myself. My husband sat there confident, smiling at old allies, thinking he had won everything. But I saw through the cracks. I saw the arrogance in his posture, the impatience in his gestures, and I felt nothing but calm. I presented my records, my notes, my documented proof of every decision, every contribution, every unpaid hour, every email and contract that proved my role in the business and the life we built together. The judge listened carefully, and the courtroom grew silent as the truth unfolded piece by piece. People who once dismissed me were now forced to pay attention. My former friend, who betrayed me, avoided my eyes, and my husband began to realize that this battle was no longer one he could win with charm or noise. Every emotion I felt through years of betrayal, anger, humiliation, and grief had transformed into clarity and resolve. I did not shout, I did not cry. I presented facts and stayed composed. My resilience became my weapon, and my preparation became my shield. The room held its breath as the reality of his assumptions collapsed around him. When the verdict was finally announced, the silence in the courtroom was deafening. My husband stared at the judge with disbelief, as everything he thought was his victory crumbled before him. He inherited nothing but the consequences of his arrogance and betrayal. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than air, yet heavier with the weight of my own survival. Every step I took felt like reclaiming ground I had lost for years. The people who once underestimated me now whispered behind my back, but I paid them no mind. I focused on the life I was building, the small wins, the quiet victories that no one could see. I started opening doors that I had once been shut out of, slowly, carefully reconnecting with people who respected me for my integrity, and not for what I could give them. I invested in myself and my skills, my confidence, my future, and every dollar I earned felt like a small revenge, a small statement that I was not disposable, that I was alive and thriving despite the attempts to erase me. My husband and those who sided with him were left facing the wreckage they created, and I learned that sometimes justice does not roar, it whispers, and yet it reaches farther than any scream. After the courtroom, I returned home to a quiet that felt strange at first but soon became comforting. I began rebuilding not just my life, but my sense of self. I painted the walls I had once shared with him. I filled my shelves with books I had always wanted to read. I learned to cook meals that nourished me instead of rushing through tasks for others. I started journaling every morning and writing down dreams that I had forgotten existed. I reconnected with old friends who truly cared and let go of the ones who had betrayed me. I traveled small places that brought peace and reminded me that the world was bigger than the pain I endured. Every day I woke up, I practiced gratitude for the strength I had discovered inside myself. I realized that survival was not enough. I wanted thriving, I wanted purpose, I wanted to live fully without waiting for anyone to validate my worth. I took small risks, learning to trust my instincts again. I allowed myself to feel emotions fully and without shame, anger, sorrow and joy all in the same breath. I understood that healing was not linear, that it was messy and beautiful, and that every tear I cried and every hour I spent alone was slowly shaping a version of me that no one could diminish. I discovered that power does not always come from money or status. Sometimes it comes from the quiet moments when you refuse to give up on yourself, when no one is watching and no one applauds. I started making decisions for me, only listening to my intuition and trusting my instincts. I built routines that reinforced my confidence and habits that reminded me that I mattered. I took courses, learned skills I had been curious about for years. I networked with people who inspired me, and slowly I started thinking bigger than I ever had before. I realized that every betrayal, every dismissal, every attempt to erase me had prepared me for this moment of clarity and strength. I was no longer afraid of confrontation, because I understood my own worth. I was no longer apologetic for claiming space for myself. I felt pride in my independence, in my resilience, in the life I was constructing brick by brick. I even smiled when I thought of my husband and his assumptions, because they no longer affected me. His arrogance could not touch the woman I had become. I finally understood that true empowerment was rooted not in proving people wrong, but in proving to yourself that you could rise above everything that tried to hold you down. I felt the first real taste of freedom, the kind that comes from knowing that no one can dictate your value or your future. I woke up one morning and realized that the fear that once controlled me was gone, replaced by excitement, curiosity, and a quiet sense of triumph. I started setting goals that had nothing to do with him or anyone else. I traveled alone, explored places I had dreamed of, and discovered that the world was full of possibilities. I laughed more freely, I cried when I needed to, and I let Myself feel every sensation without judgment. I reconnected with family in ways I had avoided before, rebuilding relationships that were authentic and supportive. I invested in projects that mattered to me, not because they would impress anyone, but because they filled me with purpose. I took care of my body, my mind, and my soul in ways I never allowed myself before, and every step I took felt like a statement that I was no longer defined by the mistakes or arrogance of others. I reclaimed my life piece by piece, and with each piece I felt stronger, more whole, more alive than ever before. Looking back, I realized that every moment of pain, every betrayal, every tear and sleepless night had taught me lessons that no comfort or praise ever could. I saw clearly how being underestimated had been my greatest teacher, how the people who tried to erase me had unintentionally shown me my own power and resilience. I understood that revenge was never about hurting anyone, it was about reclaiming yourself, about turning humiliation and grief into clarity and action. I laughed softly at memories of their confidence in my disappearance, because it only made me stronger in secret. I celebrated my victories, quietly savoring the independence I had fought for, and the strength I had discovered within myself. I no longer defined success by what others lost or gained, but by the inner peace and pride I carried. I stood taller, walked with confidence, and spoke with certainty, because I finally knew that the woman I had become was untouchable. Not because she had taken anything from anyone, but because she had given herself everything she deserved. Now I walk through my days with a quiet confidence that no one can take away. I wake up knowing that I survived everything meant to break me, and I thrived beyond what anyone imagined. I have built a life where my worth is never questioned, where my voice matters and my choices belong to me alone. I have learned to trust myself completely, to rely on my own judgment, and to honor every feeling that rises within me. I laugh freely without guilt. I dream bigger without fear, and I love myself without compromise. I have turned betrayal into clarity, anger into determination, pain into wisdom, and silence into strength. I no longer measure my life by what I lost or by the expectations of others. I measure it by how far I have come, by how deeply I understand my own power, and by how fully I live every moment as a testament to resilience, patience, and self-love. The man who tried to erase me never realized that what he took could never touch the woman I had always been, and that the real inheritance was mine all along. My courage, my clarity, and the life I rebuilt piece by piece with my own hands and heart.